Well, for the past few weeks, we've been hearing from some tour operators who are saying they've been striking out this iceberg season. But on the Great Northern Peninsula, it is a banner year for bergs, and you can spot them off Coachman's Cove, Lumsden, Brighton. And Teddy Hedderson runs the Daily Catch Ocean Tours in St. Lunaire-Griquet. And Terry, thanks so much for chatting with me. So can you tell me, can you see any icebergs out there now?
Okay, well, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm sitting right here now. I can see one just about a half mile right there, right in the mouth of the harbor, we'll say, here in St. Lunaire-Griquet. So, yeah. So I drive it. My house is about 3 kilometers from my business here. So I've seen seven while driving it this morning on the way to work. So yeah, we've got some serious amount of icebergs around.
So how would you say this year stacks up against the previous seasons?
Oh, we're way ahead of the iceberg count for us. So we were out there, did a tour a little while ago, and we counted 12. I mean, normally we get icebergs in the area. Sure, we know we always do, pretty well guaranteed. But we'll get four, we'll get three, we'll get so. But this year, it seems like spring was a little earlier, and the icebergs came down, and they really came into shore. And like every little outlet, little inlet, I mean, here now, pretty well's got an iceberg trap everywhere you look. On the walking trails, you're going to get a good look. And our tours that we take out, you're getting awesome up close and personal with the icebergs. So yeah, it's great. We're doing wonderful.
Now, you say a lack of pack ice has actually made it for a more successful season. So can you help me understand what you mean by that?
Right, exactly. So what you got to understand, like, I guess you could use the saying that less ice is more icebergs. So a lot of times from the Labrador coast or from up north, we get this heavy sea pack ice coming in, and that traps along the shoreline. Like typically, from my experience here, let's say a couple miles, and it'll freeze onto the shoreline too. And then as that's there in spring, and these bays and outside here a couple miles full of the hard pack ice, well, that normally will, the icebergs will stay outside of that and get caught in like the deeper tide rips, what we call them here, like a tide rip, a stronger tide offshore. So a lot of times they bring the icebergs just off in the distance. You maybe see them sometimes, and there's numerous to go by you never ever see. But now without the pack ice, they're really hugging the shoreline. This is why we went out the other day. There was 15 icebergs. The next day we seen 12. I mean, even locally, we're looking around saying, I can't believe this. There's more. Look, there's one over there. There's one there. And so, yeah, it's really just a massive amount of icebergs around. This is not something we're used to, really. So that many.
What about iceberg graveyards? What is that?
So we got like some small inlets here, for example, little small entranceway. When you get in, it opens up. So we got some places, a couple places along the shore here, from say Lanson Meadows to St. Anthony area and St. Lunaire-Griquet, where there's a deeper cove. And say if the iceberg can line up, which is probably going to happen this year because we got so many of them, if it can line up just right, it'll go inside this little bay. It's got a narrow entrance. And now when it gets in there, well, then some locals have called it the iceberg graveyard because that iceberg is there then just going from side to side and just kind of breaks up, pieces break off. We go visit it all the time through the summer. If it's the middle of July, middle of August, you want some iceberg ice, you go to where it's trapped. Locally we do that. And so, yeah, and then we can, it stays there then pretty well all year. We've had that happen.
Tell me a bit about your business and how significant is it to have a strong iceberg season?
Yes, because I've got the restaurant here, the Daily Catch restaurant. I've been in the tourism industry for the last 20 years. And like, if I could talk about how it developed over the years, there was a time I wouldn't open my restaurant until probably the first week in June in this area. And you'd close like the first week of September. But now, for example, now I think we're going to be like 6 weeks ahead of other years of business because we've had people coming here in the first part of May now looking for icebergs where things with early spring and stuff like that. So it's going to increase the amount of time that you have for business. And yeah, and we're just going to get a lot more travelers early on in those shoulder seasons because in business, in this area in particular, I've always told people that are getting into business or that in business that I talk to that don't worry about July and August. They kind of take care of themselves because we're going to get visitors. You need to spruce up June, May now, May and June, and September and October. These are the ones you really need to focus and get some for business wise in a small town like this on a northern tip. Yeah.
Terry Hedderson, thank you so much for your time. Good luck this season and really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.